Why the richest families on Earth are quietly positioning for Bitcoin. Why are the richest families on Earth, families with dynasties going back centuries, quietly positioning themselves for Bitcoin? Why are they so silent, while the public gets distracted with hype and noise? This isn't random. This isn't coincidence. It's part of a pattern of elite accumulation, a strategy as old as money itself. And once you see this pattern, once you recognize the moves they're making, you'll never look at Bitcoin or wealth the same way again. Because here's the truth. The rich don't get richer by chasing hype. They get richer by owning the foundations of wealth. They accumulate quietly, while everyone else is distracted loudly. Think about history. When gold was first discovered, who got rich? Not the miners breaking their backs, but the families who controlled the banks, the vaults, and the trade routes. When oil reshaped the world, who got rich? Not the average person buying barrels, but the families who quietly accumulated land rights and pipelines. When the internet exploded, who got rich? Not the ones chasing every dot-com stock, but the few who quietly positioned themselves in the infrastructure, the cables, the servers, the platforms. And now, in our time, Bitcoin is the new foundation, the new base layer of value, and once again, the richest families on Earth are quietly accumulating it. But here's the twist. They're not telling you. They're not broadcasting it on CNBC. They're not screaming about it on YouTube thumbnails. Instead, they're moving in silence. They're hiring private custodians. They're funding mining operations. They're buying through trusts and private investment vehicles. Because they know something the average person doesn't. That Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a once-in-history transfer of wealth. And the families who understand this are positioning themselves to own the future. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself this. If Bitcoin was just a fad, if it was just digital gambling chips, why would the richest dynasties in the world be quietly accumulating it? Why would hedge funds backed by old family money suddenly care about magic internet coins? Why would sovereign wealth funds start allocating quietly? The answer is simple, because they've seen this movie before. They've studied centuries of monetary history. They know when a system is collapsing and when a new system is rising. And make no mistake, the fiat system is collapsing. Inflation is just the visible symptom. The real disease is debt, corruption, and the endless printing of money. The richest families don't wait for collapse to act. They move before the headlines. They accumulate before the stampede. This is the pattern, and it's happening again right now with Bitcoin. But why quietly? Why not openly? Because wealth moves differently at the top. The powerful don't chase. They accumulate, and accumulation works best in silence. If they shouted from the rooftops, prices would skyrocket before they finished buying. If they told the public, supply would dry up instantly. So instead, they let the public argue. They let the influencers distract. They let the media mock. Because while everyone is busy laughing, debating, or gambling on altcoins, the elite are stacking quietly, methodically, relentlessly. This is why the richest families are always 2 steps ahead. They understand cycles, they understand psychology, and they understand the power of patience. Here's something most people don't know. True wealth isn't built in public. It's built in silence. It's not about chasing headlines. It's about controlling foundations. Bitcoin is the new foundation, and those who own it now, quietly, will shape the next century. That's why you see family offices, the secret investment arms of dynasties, allocating. That's why trusts and private funds are accumulating. That's why mining companies are being quietly acquired. They don't want you to notice, because if you noticed, you might start stacking too. And remember, there are only 21 million Bitcoin. Do you see the pattern now? The public is distracted with noise. The elite are focused on signal. The public wants quick flips. The elite want generational wealth. The public sells on fear. The elite accumulate through fear. This is how dynasties are built, not by luck, not by gambling, but by patience, by positioning, by quietly owning the foundation before the world catches on. And here's the part that should send chills down your spine. By the time the public wakes up, by the time Bitcoin is obvious, it will already be too late to accumulate like the elites did. Because at that point, they'll already own it. And once again, just like gold, oil, and the internet, the foundations of the future will belong to them. Unless you see the pattern now, unless you break the cycle of distraction, unless you start acting like they do, not tomorrow, but today. Because the richest families aren't waiting. They never do. They position before the shift. They accumulate before the explosion. And they always do it quietly. So ask yourself this: do you want to be like the crowd or like the dynasty? Do you want to chase noise or accumulate signal? Because one path leads to being entertained and the other leads to being free. And that freedom begins with a simple truth. Bitcoin is the foundation of the future, and those who quietly hold it now will define tomorrow. That's why the richest families on earth are moving in silence. That's why they don't want you to notice. That's why you're only just now hearing this. Because you weren't meant to notice until it was too late. But now you do. Now the choice is yours. Will you stay distracted, or will you accumulate quietly? Will you laugh it off, or will you recognize the pattern? Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you act on it, everything changes. That's why this isn't just financial advice. It's a wake-up call. A wake-up call to stop playing the game of distraction and start playing the game of accumulation. And when you do, when you look back years from now, you'll say to yourself, why didn't anyone tell me this before? This explains everything. I need to share this. If this opened your eyes, if this revealed something you've never been told, then help spread it, because the algorithm won't. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still thinks Bitcoin is just a gamble. Because the more people who see the pattern, the fewer people get left behind. The richest families on earth are quietly positioning for Bitcoin. Now you know why. The only question left is whether you will too.